Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today's video tutorial was previously shared on the Altenew YouTube channel, but I thought you would enjoy seeing it here as well. Today I am sharing 3 projects featuring the brand new Zero Waste Ornamental Winter Pattern die set, and I have a beautiful color palette for you. I'm going to be adding a touch of sparkle, of course, because that's the name of the game here. But first off, let's have a look at this brand new Zero Waste Ornamental Winter Pattern die. Now this not only includes that knockout area in the center, but an outer circle die, which means you can use this in even more ways. Now I'll be pairing this with a fun palette, which includes Moonstone glitter cardstock, which I am in love with, Evergreen, Moss, Rouge, Coralberry, Velvet, and Nimbus. And I thought this was a fun, modern holiday color palette. One thing I wanted to point out is the change in the Altenew packaging. It now includes an acetate sheet that the dies are attached to, and that means that when you pull your dies away, you're not ruining the packaging. So you can keep the packaging for inspiration and keep it all intact, and I love that simple yet effective change. So I'm going to start out by die cutting this knockout portion from several colors of cardstock. I'm starting with Evergreen here, and you may notice that a few of my pieces didn't cut all the way through. Now that can happen on an intricate die like this. So if you're having issues cutting all the way through your cardstock, I would recommend adding a metal shim to your die cutting sandwich. The other thing that is wonderful to have on hand when you're using small die cuts like this and you have a lot of little pieces that get stuck in your die is the Perfect Picker tool, and I'm using the pokey end to get all of those out. Now look at this. This is the second pass through the die cut machine. This time I added a metal shim to my die cutting sandwich. This little guy got stuck there, but you can see all of the die cuts fell out. Now, as I die cut these various colors of cardstock, I'm just keeping them kind of separated, keeping all of one color together, or maybe mixing a couple of colors, but I'm going to use not only the pieces that fall out of this die that are created by the die, but I'll also be using some of these backer pieces, and I'll show you how you can create an ornament with this in just a bit. Now this on its own looks beautiful over a piece of glitter cardstock. You could put a sentiment on the bottom and call this done. So really, I guess I'm sharing 3 ways to use this today. Now I'm going to continue to cut various colors of cardstock because I want a variety of pieces that I can use on several projects. And I just spent some time running these through. You can see that when I use the metal shim in my die cutting sandwich, I get perfect results every time. It could be, if you're not getting clean results like I'm getting, that you just need a touch more pressure. Now, I also wanted to show you the die cutting of the Moonstone glitter. Once again, I used a metal shim in my die cutting sandwich, and I got perfect cuts all the way through, but the nature of glitter cardstock is such that it kind of wants to stick inside of itself a little bit, so you may have to push some of these elements out. Once again, I'm using the Perfect Picker tool to do that, but you can see I got nice, clean die cut results on this. Now, if you just want a portion of these patterns, say I wanted just that little snowflake there, I can cut down a piece of cardstock and cover the area of the die that I want to die cut, run that through my die cut machine, and then I can die cut additional elements just from portions of this die. Now, I had ripped my snowflake earlier, so I ran this back through so that I could cut another glitter snowflake, and look at that beautiful, intricate die cut that I have. Now, once I've die cut that pattern into the various colors of cardstock, I'm going to take that outer circle die and position it around that knockout piece, and I'm going to die cut these into circles. Now, you could die cut this directly in the panel and leave it as I showed you earlier, or you can use this outer circle die to create a really cool ornament shape or circle shape that's perfect for winter cards. So I went ahead and repeated that process with all of the colors that I die cut, and you can see I have a lot of die cuts to work with. Now I'm going to start arranging some of the elements in a pattern that I think I might like. I'm not exactly sure at this point what I'm going to put these little groupings on, but I'm gonna kind of pull out some of these elements and create a couple groupings that I really like. Now, if you wanted, you could do an inlay technique with this die as well. You could take all of these little pieces that are created by the various colors of cardstock and inlay them into one of those circle pieces that we cut out earlier. But once I kind of get a couple of groupings, I'm going to start working on some sentiments. And I've grabbed the Wrapped with Love product suite, as well as the Labels and Tags 2 die set. I love this tag here. I'm die cutting it from some craft cardstock, and I think this label and tag set is really unique because it has the various pieces that are designed to kind of nestle up against these outer shapes and create the hole in the perfect spot. So you can see I have my cut line there. If I take this and I just slide it to where that cut line at the top is butted up against the top of my tag and then run this through, I have the perfectly positioned hole in my die cut. I'm going to repeat this process, so just taking that die and sliding it down until that upper blade meets with the top of the die cut. That's going to perfectly position my hole in my tag here, and then I can run that through my die cut machine, and I have a couple of tags ready to go. For the sentiment, I am grabbing the Wrapped with Love press plate set, and I am going to place several of these press plates onto my Glimmer hot foil system. And while that's heating up, I'm going to take the Ivory Black hot foil roll from Altenew. I'm going to make sure that I have plenty measured out and then trim a piece down with my scissors. All of those press plates can be used either with your Glimmer hot foil system or with your Better Press system, so I think that's really cool that they're so versatile. Once the platform is hot and ready, I'm going to remove the platform from the base and take this over to my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I'll place my foil on top of those press plates with the pretty side facing toward the pattern of my press plates. Then I'm going to grab some smooth white cardstock and lay that on top. And I have the thin shim and the spacer pad that come with my Glimmer hot foil system. I'll lay those on top, and then I'll run this through my die cut machine. The combination of the heat and pressure are going to mix together to transfer that foil onto my cardstock, and look at this reveal. I love this black foil because it adds that bit of shine. There's not really dimension on this, but it is so smooth and so beautiful and so striking on this white cardstock. Once I have these foiled, I'll use the coordinating dies to die cut all of these pieces out. There are little strip dies for all of the little sentiment strips as well, and I'll be combining these larger scripty dies with some of the sentiment dies. I've also die cut a couple extra layers of the sentiment here in different colors. This is the Velvet and the Rouge, and I am just gluing those onto the back of that hot foiled piece, offset just a bit so that I can have an additional area of color on my finished tag. Once I have those glued together, I did put a magnet on top, but I regret doing this, and I'll show you a little later in the video why. I'm going to continue working on the project, though, this little tag, by adhering a couple layers of these florals together. And then I'm going to start adding some of the greenery and various pieces from that zero waste die onto the side of this tag. So I am making sure that I mix my greens. I want to include a nice mix of that evergreen and that moss. I think that that can really take a little arrangement like this and bump it up a notch, elevate it just a bit when you're using various colors of greens. I'm also going to mix in some of the little leaves and greenery from that Moonstone glitter cardstock. And I'm just positioning these onto the edge of the tag. I'm using a little bit of liquid glue at the base, and I'm leaving the ends kind of free so I can curl them up. Now for my floral piece, I position that onto my tag using some Instant Dimension foam tape. And again, I'm just taking the tips of these petals and kind of curling them up with my fingers to add a bit of dimension. Again, I'm using some Instant Dimension foam tape to add my foiled sentiment, and I'm just positioning that towards the center of the tag, and I'll nestle the little sentiment strip below that again on some foam adhesive. Once I had my little arrangement built, I did go back and add just a couple more little sprigs in there. And then I finished off my tag with some Dazzling Diamonds Stellar Sequins. These are some of my favorite sequins from Altenew. I love, it's kind of like a warm silver color. It looks great with both silver and gold. And boy, do these have a lot of shine. Now I created a second tag, and you can see I've cut additional layers of that tag to kind of nestle behind each of these tag designs that I've created. And I also die cut the whole reinforcer from some Moonstone glitter cardstock, and I'm just adhering those in place. Once I created my tags, I'm going to move on to creating a card project, and I am taking the Moonstone glitter piece that I created with the outer and the inner die, and I'm gluing it onto a piece of vellum that I die cut using that outer die only. Look at all the sparkle on this. I cannot get over it, and that glitter does not come off on your hands. Now again, I took my sentiment and die cut an additional couple layers from some colored cardstock, and I'm adhering those slightly offset to add a little bit of extra color to my card project. And while those dry, I'm going to place my magnet over the top, and I'll show you here in just a moment why I regret that. In the meantime, I have a panel of Nimbus cardstock, and I'm using the new Lush Berry Branch 3D embossing folder to add some texture to this card panel. So I'm just looking through the front of that 3D embossing folder, positioning it where I want it, and then running it through my die cut machine using the recommended sandwich for 3D embossing folders. Now here's where I realized why my foil greetings were getting all marred up. I looked at this, and that magnet had created some marred areas on my foil, and I didn't like that. So don't put your magnet on top of your foiled sentiments. Just trust me on this one. I had to refoil it and just adhere it right over the top of the stack that I created. I added this onto that ornament base using some Instant Dimension foam tape over towards that right-hand side. And once I have my sentiment in place, I'm going to take some of this greenery that was created by that knockout portion of the die, and I'm going to start tucking it behind my greeting. Now, once again, I'm using the various colors of greens, making sure I mix those together. And then on top of the greenery arrangement, I'll bring in some of the snowflakes and such to kind of round out this arrangement. And I cannot get over this very delicate little glitter snowflake here. I think it is my favorite piece of that entire knockout portion of the zero waste die. Now, once I have everything kind of how I want it, you can see I'm fussing and fluffing with things. I did adhere a twine bow to the top, and then I flipped my card front over and added some 1-inch wide Instant Dimension foam tape to the back. That's going to really make sure that this emboss panel sticks down. I love the 1-inch wide for adhering these large panels of cardstock onto a card base. So you can see it's trimmed down to about 4 by 5¼ inches. I removed the backer from that foam tape and added it onto an A2 white card base. And then I hid some foam adhesive behind all of those elements that I kind of adhered on top of my ornament here. And I will take this entire ornament and place it onto my card front. And here's a look at that finished card. I think it's so beautiful, and a touch of sparkle, I would say so. That glitter ornament along with the hot foiled sentiment looks absolutely beautiful and so striking. So here's a look at the 3 projects that I created. I used this die in a few different ways here. Not only did I use those knockout portions, but I also die cut the outer part to create an ornament. I have a couple of tags here, which are perfect for the upcoming, I guess it's not that close, but it is Christmas in July, but the upcoming holiday season. And I absolutely love dies like this because they give me so much mileage every time I run it through the die cut machine. As always, I will have links to the featured products used in this project in the YouTube description below. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there, or you can head on over to the coordinating blog post. I'll have that linked in the YouTube description below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. As always, I want to say thanks so much for stopping by and hanging out with me today. I am so glad you are here. If you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed these projects, I would love it if you would go ahead and subscribe to this channel, click the like button, and don't forget to turn on the notifications because that means you won't miss any of the fabulous paper crafting and video tutorials shared here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.